bird's wings. This is quinacridone gold. Not super careful with this. It's just a base layer wash, and my borders are not super important, especially since everything's pretty messy at this stage. Now for the head and neck, I'm going to grab one of my older brushes because I'm going to do some dry brushing stuff. And dry brushing action is always kind of tough on the bristles. So rather than damage my new brushes, not that what I've been using so far has been any good brush. This is a $2 Zen Royal and Langnickel. Fairly cheap, synthetic bristles. I use them as a all-purpose brush for stuff where I don't really want to worry about my bristles getting worn down or getting exposed to mediums like the watercolor ground, which can kind of get stuck up at the top and then cause the hairs to splay and things. So I keep a bunch of cheap brushes on hand for things like that. This one is just one of my older number 0 round brushes, and I am going to start the bird's head with some dry brush action here. This is a piece in the vein of my shadowy creatures with their shadowed faces and things. So I like to have this very soft edged shading done for the shadows. The dry brushing gives it this gently fuzzed look to it, like it's a little bit diffuse. And I love that texture, so I use it frequently for these shadowy type critters. I'm going to zoom in my lens a bit in a second so that you can get a closer look at this as I work. Here we go, much closer in now so you can have a front row seat to this. I want to keep my brush dry enough that it skips over the surface of the page a little bit, and moisture doesn't fill in all the gaps. It's a little bit like the feel of a colored pencil on this finely rough paper. It's sort of the feel for this, because it lets me shade the edges and soften things in this very gentle way. You see the little bits of white. That's from the texture of this paper, and this paper is not very textured at all. It is a fairly smooth paper. It is a hot press. I am using Canson's Moulin du Roi. And here's another, you can see my brush, it's nice and close up. I let the bristles spread out a little bit and sort of flatten. That flattened edge of it allows me to brush these strokes in. Because if it was just a single sharp point, for example, if it was like that, if it was at a point, then it would be a lot more work to be doing this kind of shading, but with the bristles splayed out like this, it lets me cover more area. I mean, not that I am intent on covering large swaths of area. I am using a size 0 brush after all. You guys know me. Me and my tiny brushes and tiny palettes. That's just how I work. I always like small things, and I like working small. It's funny, over the years, I actually have gotten, I think the size of my paintings has sort of gotten smaller. I mean, I do some pieces as large as I used to, but in general, I work in a much smaller area. It's just a whole lot more detailed, even though the paintings are smaller. So I keep getting smaller and smaller, and they keep getting more and more detailed. That's just the way my brain works. I think the biggest watercolor painting I have done was 30 by 40 inches. That was the largest size paper I could find. Well, at least paper of the brand that I liked. At that time, I think I was using the Strathmore 500 series illustration board, which is different from what it is now. I liked that stuff a lot back then, but it's always changing up. Papers come and papers go. Sometimes I stockpile up on materials that I like because I'm afraid that it might go away, as I have found happens far too often with art supplies. You find something that you really like and you think, oh, I can use this forever. My search is done. And then it changes. Either the company goes away, or they stop making the thing, or they change the formulation of it. All kinds of things can happen. You can see right now I've been working mostly in a bluish purpley toned combo of colors. I like to layer in lots of different colors when I do this because it makes the shading just feel so much more complex. You know, just the way I love layering watercolors and glazes too, you know. Layering in watercolors is one of the magical aspects of watercolors because you really just get an effect with them that no other medium ever seems to capture. There's a little bit of red there that I use. And there's just this beautiful complexity to layered colors. That's one of my favorite things about watercolors. Actually, I have a lot of favorite things about watercolors. Another thing is that you don't have to deal with nasty toxic fumes when you're painting. Having a very small studio space, that is a big bonus to me. I have worked in oils once upon a time, long ago, and I did enjoy that, but I never liked the smells and all the mediums, all the toxic things that you needed to use to paint and to clean and to do everything, every aspect of it. So, yeah, I like watercolors more. Layering in, I think I'm going to layer in some more blue tones into the body area. Now I'm going to keep the body softly shadowed like this, and then the wings are going to be very bright, you know, brilliant plumage colors going over there. At least that's the current thought that I have. As I said, I'm not really planning this one. It's just sort of happening as it goes, and so I'm making color choices as they occur to me. Here, let's do a little bit of a wash, a base color wash on the wing tips. Here, I guess these are not the tips. I don't know technically what this part of the bird is called, the wing, but that part. Sort of the equivalent of the elbow joint on a human, right? Shoulder and elbow. All right. Yeah, it's a very light wash, as I always do with my base washes. What I want to do is just sort of set an overall color tone that I will be working within. Now I am going to do some underlayer color shading on the feathers. I'm using that same brush that I did for all that dry brushing. And I'm getting in to each of these little feathers, and where each feather goes under the one next to it, shading in some of the bluish tone colors for that. I'm going to be doing more washes on top of this afterwards for the highlighted color areas. So this is the shadowed color areas. And it's going to be combined with the colors that are layered on top. And as I move along the feathers, I'm probably going to shift to other colors as well. In this area, I am using mostly this brilliant blue tone.